Imagine that you have to give up your pet. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that you would never give up your pet. But imagine that circumstances have changed. Perhaps your child has become severely allergic, or you've lost your job and you need to move. You have no other options but to bring your pet to the animal shelter. So you load them up and you make the drive over. And when you get there, you give them one final scratch under the chin before you walk up the stairs, through the door, and to the counter. The gal behind the counter asks how she can help you. And when you let her know you're there to give up Buddy, her smile fades and the room goes cold. She turns from you, gets a form, and slides it across the counter. And as you begin to fill it out, someone comes and takes Buddy from you. You don't even get to say goodbye. And when you're done with the form, you look up, hoping to make eye contact with someone, so that you can let them know that Buddy's afraid of thunder, or that if you say night-night, he knows to go to his bed. But no one will look at you. It's as if you don't even exist. And while you want to scream, "I don't want to be here either," instead, you sign the form, you walk back out the door, down the steps, and into your car, where you begin to sob. I used to be that person behind the counter who would make you feel horrible about yourself if you had to give up your pet. In animal welfare, we're taught care about animals, not people. I felt free to judge people even though I knew nothing about them or their circumstance. I'm sure there's many of you here that have heard someone say, "I hate people," as a way to prove just how much they love animals. It's a bit of an animal welfare mantra. I used to say it all the time. But recently I realized something. For every animal that comes through our door, there is a person attached to it. And for every animal story, there's a person's story as well. And we must care not only about the animals, but the people too, to be a humane society. Now, you may wonder how I went from being that person behind the counter who judged people to someone who's going to stand up here and advocate for them. We received a grant to go into rural communities and offer free services to people and their pets. Free spay-neuter, free vaccinations, free pet food, even free collars and tags. These were communities that had flown under the animal welfare radar. No one had ever helped them before. This program had been hugely successful in inner cities, places like Detroit, Atlanta, and LA, but it had never been done in a rural community. We would be the first. The theory was it'll work equally as well. You go block to block, knock door to door, and find out what barriers people faced to keeping or caring for their pets. And while the program had been successful in inner cities, I had my doubts it was going to work in a rural community. Fairfield, Idaho is nothing like inner city Detroit. I was worried that people in these communities, they didn't want to spay and neuter their pets. They were fine giving litter after litter of kittens up to the animal shelter. I was worried that no one would answer their door when I knocked, or worse, they were going to run me out of town. But I got out there, and I started doing the work. And at first, it was a bit slow. Not a lot of people were answering their doors. But then I came to a blue house with a red door, and that's where I met Stu. Stu was a war veteran who had recently been given a young dog. And while he wanted to get the dog neutered and vaccinated, his budget wouldn't allow for it. So when we let him know we could offer him those services at no cost, he signed up. And while I'm not entirely convinced that Stu didn't think there was going to be some sort of hidden fee at the end of all this, he was willing to trust us. And for that, I will be forever grateful. The following day, we showed up, we got his dog, we took him to the veterinarian, we got him vaccinated and neutered, and we returned him at 4 p.m. just like we said we would. He was incredibly thankful. As we were walking out the door, he mentioned he had a few friends. They might want to sign up for services. Could we come back? And since knocking on doors was not going so well, I readily agreed. The following day, I showed up to Stu's, and as I pulled into his driveway, there were around 25 people milling about. They were waiting for services they had never had access to. We helped every single one of their animals, and since May 2015, we have helped close to 2,000 animals in the communities we've served. Clearly, my doubts were unfounded. If you lend a hand, people will embrace you. People don't want to have to give up their pets. People don't want to give up litter after litter of kittens to the animal shelter. They just need someone to help them trap the mom who keeps having them under their deck. And while this program was obviously beneficial to the people in these communities, it had a positive impact on our shelter as well. With fewer and fewer animals coming in our doors, staff could spend less and less time worrying about where to house them. Instead, we could spend time working with the animals we already had. The shelter became a happy place. More and more people were coming in our doors to adopt animals. Our adoption numbers soared. We realized that people were a part of the equation, and by doing so, we could get more animals homes. Now, in the case that someone needed to come in and give up their pet, that was okay. We had options and services to offer them. And in the rare case that someone actually had to leave their pet with us, that was okay too. We could treat them with empathy and compassion because we understood where they were coming from. We understood this isn't what they wanted either. If you look at the word humane, it's obvious. People are a large part of it. Whether we're the ones giving the services or receiving them, we play an equal role. For 30 years, the organization I work for has been called the Animal Shelter. But we realize this no longer defines us. As we begin to build a new facility, we'll be looking at the word humane and letting it guide us to who we want to be. Because in order to be a truly humane community, we must care not only for animals, but the people attached to them as well. Thank you.